Michael, if you had a chance to make $275 million from one game, wouldn't you leave everything on the pitch too?
Yeah, 100%. Where do I sign?
I think you need to have a team first. But last Saturday at Wembley Stadium in London, Hull City and Middlesbrough played what it's known as, in England at least, as the richest match in football, because winning it effectively unlocked roughly $275 million in broadcast and commercial revenue for the winner in the next 3 seasons. Well, on Saturday, Hull City became that winner and took home not only for next season $275 million roughly in media revenue, also following seasons, they're going to have parachute payments, even though they don't stay up in Premier League. This is the most valuable jackpot prize in football outside of Champions League, which we will talk a little bit more about that later in the show. I think calling this just a promotion is underselling it. And one stoppage time goal can make such a big difference in a small club's future revenues. It's incredible. I'm Asli Pellet. I cover the business of women's soccer for The Athletic.
And I'm veteran sports journalist Michael Array. Welcome to Finance of Football.
Well, we're taking a little bit of break from our as a main story World Cup. Why? Because we want to talk about this huge jackpot prize, Michael.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I know so much of our conversations have been based around the World Cup, and rightfully so, with kickoff in less than a month. But, the conclusion of domestic seasons and with the Champions League final, you touched on the women's final. Obviously, we have the men's final coming up too. There's a lot more in the world of soccer to talk about outside of the World Cup. So we have to take a little breather on the World Cup and talk about these opportunities here. And like you said, what better opportunity, especially financially, for clubs like Hull, Middlesbrough, etc., to play a match that has so much money tied to it is I don't know if life change is the right word, but maybe club changing. I know it's so tough in the Premier League where you have, the big money clubs like Manchester City and Liverpool and Arsenal and Chelsea, and the list goes on and on. But one of the benefits of the Premier League is they share the television rights with all of the clubs, regardless if you finish first like Arsenal or dead last and get relegated. So for a club like Hull City to move up into the Premier League for next season, like you said, it not only pays dividends for them next season, but in the following 2 after that as well too, even if they go up and come down immediately after in one season and get relegated.
Yeah. And there are clubs that have done it really well, and there are clubs that couldn't really manage to stay up, but it doesn't matter. Championship playoffs are football's greatest equalizers, and I feel like that's why they're celebrated the way they're celebrated. They always become one of the most watched games of the season in England. I feel like in order to explain perhaps a little in detail why for a club like Hull City this meant so much, we can always perhaps for our American listeners, we can make the comparison with Wrexham, which was on the run to get to this playoff spot to play instead of Hull City in this match. It could have been a big win for Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney, but it didn't. Hull City is owned by a Turkish media mogul coming from sports journalism background, actually. I think that's why owners are chasing this promotion opportunity so obsessively. In addition to financial, I think, aspect of it, there's also a pride that goes along with it, right? Thousands of fans that fill Wembley Stadium on Saturday left that stadium much more proud than they entered, leaving as winners. And then next season, their team is going to be in the same screen and same pitch as teams like Manchester United, Arsenal, Man City. It must, feel really good. I don't know. We don't really experience that in America because we don't have promotion and relegation.
Not yet, at least, right? And I was going to say, I know the USL is going to be introducing that after the World Cup, which I think is great because it's all about drama, right? Sex
Uh-huh.
sells, and so does drama. Yes, there was a bit of a title race in the Premier League, but Arsenal won, and it was like, okay, cool. So the excitement and the attention turns to the relegation, right? And it's the promotion, the relegation. You get these smaller clubs who maybe not a lot of people have heard about or they know about, and then they come into the spotlight getting promotion into the top league. And we see that in England. And you touched on Wrexham, and I spoke to their sporting director, Sean Harvey, a couple years ago, and he was discussing how their their consecutive promotions, and they ended up having another one after that. So they've gone 3 consecutive up until this season. It's just a testament to what they're doing and building in that community and in that club. Yes, the club is spending more money than any other team in each of the levels that they were at, but you got to
Hmm.
spend money to make money, right?
Of
And it's
course.
going to pay dividends. And for a club like Wrexham, where you have that Hollywood ownership, you have the television show, and you have this ecosystem of other brands, whether it's Aviation Gin or something along those lines, that you can bring in and inject some money into that club. Clubs like Hull, clubs like Middlesbrough, maybe they don't have the sexy, American Hollywood owners, but you still now go into the spotlight, and brands and, TV partners and everybody, they see this and they go, ooh, I kind of like this club, or I didn't know about this club. And you're drawing more fans, you're drawing more eyeballs. And it's as a result of the relegation and promotion and the playoffs and just the excitement, because who doesn't love an underdog story?
And when we look at Hull City, Ajun Ilıcalı is not your average football owner. He is basically Turkey's reality television kingpin. He built an empire on making Survivor show for Turkish audiences for many years. The network that he was showing his reality show owed him so much money. They gave him a television channel. So he owns that television, channel right now. He might not be known until now in the world as someone, but he definitely will be under the spotlight next season. And also, I'm sure they will be looking into his finances and where this money is coming from. He bought the team in 2022. For someone who owns just a small television station to actually buy a team, not spend as much money as Wrexham's owners, by the way, not so many star players. It's like almost looked like a passion project for him that he could turn into a profitable, now commercial, success story.
The number one priority for them now is survival, because so many clubs, they go up and they get their moment in the sun and they're like, oh, we're so excited to be here. They get 16 points on the season and they go right back down into obscurity. So that's the biggest thing with Hull and the other clubs that, got promoted to the Premier League, is how do you use this new injection of cash, these new eyeballs that are on you from, social media and broadcast and all of that? How do you get the players that you need in order to compete, in order to survive in the Premier League moving forward, knowing that you're going up against some of the richest clubs in the world that, they're cutting blank checks here and there to, any any and every player.
We have other important topics to talk about this week. A big championship news. Let's take a short break and talk about that after this.
Welcome back to Finance of Football. We were just discussing the richest game in football, but that wasn't the only big game happening this weekend. Asla, I'm sure you were glued to your television sets watching FC Barcelona versus Lyon in the UEFA Women's Champions League. A lot at stake there as well, too. Tell us about it.
Yes, Michael, it was an incredible morning for women's soccer lovers. In final in Oslo was supposed to be Michele Kang's coronation moment. Instead, it became another reminder that right now in women's football, Barcelona Femenil remains the final boss, the champions, the best team this moment, because Olympique Lyonnais was probably the best team for so many years. They won the most Champions League title, but Barcelona dismantled them on Saturday 4-0 in the final, winning their 4th European title in 6 years and further cementing their dynasty in women's soccer, right? I think the most interesting part of Saturday was when Michele took the helm at Olympique Lyonnais. She had one goal. She wanted to keep winning Champions League titles. What did she do? She brought Barcelona's coach, Jonathan Giraldez, and she didn't bring him to Olympique Lyonnais immediately. She brought him to Washington Spirit. He had like a season here, and right at the end of that season, boom, he was coaching Olympique Lyonnais, and they kind of knew, I guess, that they will be facing Barcelona at some point, but like hopefully at the final. And Jonathan, knowing Barcelona so well, all their tricks, all their strategy, yet he couldn't deliver the winning game. And so this is like, I think, one part of this saga, but the other part is very important. A couple of years from now, if London Lionesses do really well, they can potentially compete in the Champions League. And then Kang will have two clubs competing in the Women's Champions League. A topic that is very touchy-feely, as UEFA is nervous about that. And this nervousness started from the men's side. They are very publicly tightening their rules around multi-club ownership just because they want to make sure this very lucrative broadcast product, there is no doubt in anybody's mind, there is no cheating, there is no match fixing, so that people will believe that this is the best of the best playing each other, right, Michael? I think that happens in American sports, that also, like, nobody wants to think that NBA has a fixed matches, that always the same team wins. Like, that will really dilute the broadcast product, which they make billions of dollars from.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? You need to make sure integrity is the name of the game and it stays that way, right? If I have two teams going against each other, what's to say I don't tell team A, okay, you're going to beat team B by this much and we're going to pay these players X, Y, and Z amount, right? And how do you kind of trace that and you know, deal with all those things? So if you're UEFA, you're trying to nip this in the bud now, knowing that that multi-club ownership is very popular on the men's side. It's growing in popularity on the women's side, as we've discussed, you know, earlier this year in the lead up to the NWSL season kickoff. It's not a problem now, like you said, but if I was UEFA, I'd want to get ahead of it before it becomes a problem, right? And then you're not sitting here saying, well, sorry, your club's not, you know, in this competition anymore, and we're going to give it to the next best team or somebody that qualifies. And that's not fair for the players. It's not fair for the fans. So how do you set, you know, these rules and regulations in place now, knowing that there is a ton of money on the line? And you touched on it, right? Barcelona are going to earn a little over more than 2 million euros from this Women's Champions League run, including title winning bonuses. Whereas on the men's side, they're getting over 100 million euros from, you know, UEFA distributions alone. On the men's side, there's going to be $2.44 billion, billion euros, excuse me, among participating clubs. And again, it's just, you know, will we see those numbers, you know, level out at some point? Will we see the women's get to that 2.44 billion, you know, that the men's are at? I don't know, but it is one of those things. It's television, it's viewership, it's sponsors, it's all of that, and that plays into it. But women's soccer, as you know, Asli, is more popular and more profitable than ever before. So, you know, I say give it time. Same to Michele Kang, right? She's investing all this money in these different clubs. Well, why haven't I won a Champions League yet? Or why can't we beat Barcelona? Give it time. We saw it with Hull. We've seen it with Wrexham. We've seen it with these other teams. Just because you're injecting all this money into the club isn't a light switch and guarantees victory that season. It's going to take time for her. It's going to take time for the women's game as well, too, on the Champions League side to get up to hopefully where the men's side is. Just knowing that, again, there's more money in this game than ever before.
Yeah, continuity, I think chemistry, and of course, like you said, patience and keep adding at it is the key to success. And let's not forget to remind everyone, next Saturday, UEFA Men's Champions Final between PSG and Arsenal, Saturday, May 30th. I think that would be one of the most interesting games to watch this season. with a huge prize purse, 100 million euros at stake for these teams.
For PSG, it very much so is, how do we cement our dynasty? How do we create one of those, right? They've dominated over Ligue 1 in France. How do you now dominate over Europe? They got their first one last year. They're going for 2 in a row here this year. And I think, if you have FC Barcelona on the women's side as a Champions League dynasty and PSG on the men's side, who's going to step up? Who's going to be that team to, take that crown, whether it's next season or in the future?
Right now, it's time for our weekly World Cup segment, World Cup Date.
Finally, we have good news as it relates to tickets for the 2026 FIFA World Cup. New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani isn't only celebrating after Arsenal won the Premier League for the first time in 22 years. The soccer-obsessed politician continues to use his football fandom as fuel to make the game more accessible and affordable to New Yorkers. So, on May 21st, Mamdani announced that he secured 1,000 affordable tickets to the World Cup for New Yorkers at $50 per seat, including free round-trip bus transportation to MetLife Stadium, or excuse me, I should say New York, New Jersey Stadium, or if you're in New Jersey listening to this, it's New Jersey, New York Stadium.
This is amazing. I mean, are you joining? I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to win one of these tickets.
It's fantastic news. Yeah. And you set it up perfectly. In order to try to win these tickets, there is a lottery. The program covers the 5 group stage matches and 2 knockout rounds at MetLife Stadium, approximately 150 tickets allocated per. New York City residents age 15 and over may enter the lottery for a chance to purchase tickets, with winners selected randomly. Entry for the ticket lottery opened on May 25th. Those interested can go to regnyctix.com up until Saturday, May 30th at midnight in order to register. So New Yorkers may enter once per day with a daily cap of 50,000 entry. Is that per person or is that total? Because that seems like a lot either way. Winners will be announced Wednesday, June 3rd, and may purchase up to 2 tickets. So not only is the mayor making this tournament affordable, which is great because FIFA's not doing it, resellers are not doing it. But I think, one of the other important things too is this isn't something that someone can go on and buy these tickets and then resell them for a profit. So they've put things in place where, it's only for the ticket can only go to the person on the email who applies for it. I think you're handed the ticket the day of the game. It's not just, hey, you're a winner, here are your 2 tickets, and then go off and have fun, because everyone's going to try to resell them, take that $50 investment and turn it into hundreds or thousands of dollars. So, but shout out to Mayor Mamdani for making soccer affordable again.
Iran is relocating their World Cup base to Mexico. The U.S. and Israel launched a joint military campaign against Iran with aerial strikes beginning in late February. Unsurprisingly, the Iranian national soccer team has hesitations about coming to the United States this summer for the 2026 World Cup, and they rather stay in Mexico, just because there were social media threats made by American President Donald Trump telling Iran to skip the tournament for their own life and safety, end quote. I don't think that is the kind of comment that will ease anybody's concerns. And on May 23rd, Mehdi Taj, president of the Iran Football Federation, announced that the Middle East nation is relocating their World Cup base from Tucson, Arizona to Tijuana, Mexico.
Gianni Infantino, FIFA president, and everyone says, oh, the World Cup is all about uniting people and we're trying to, use soccer to bring people together. And then, U.S. President Donald Trump tells this team basically, hey, watch over your shoulders if you're coming here, kind of thing, which again contradicts the whole purpose of this, the messaging and inclusivity and all of that. But, Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, on Monday said that the country would welcome Iran with open arms. She said, quote, we have no reason to deny them the possibility of staying in Mexico.
Finance of Football comes to you from the Frequency Machine Podcast Network. Hit us up on Instagram and YouTube at Finance of Football Pod for more football business and our enlightened opinions. Or search Finance of Football on LinkedIn and Facebook. This episode was produced by co-hosts Michael Array and Asa Pellet. It was edited by Ryan Hammond. Mixing and mastering by Julian Kwasniewski. Our theme music is by Hatamitsunami. Our show is executive produced by Ryan, alongside Stacy Book and Avi Glajansky for Frequency Machine. Find more about Finance of Football at frequencymachine.com. Follow us on YouTube at Finance of Football and listen anywhere you get podcasts. Please like and subscribe. Help us reach more people. We love you for it.